I would like to welcome Priscilla, who will share her story with us. Priscilla, please start whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I guess the first thing that I want to say is that I've been pregnant 3 times, and my body has hated pregnancy each and every time. and that's because pregnancy has always just come complicated to me. The first time I had just started dating someone, and I got pregnant unexpectedly, but we were very much in love and we decided to go for it. That person is now my husband, and we were going to start a great new life, and we moved, and at around 5 months gestation, I went into preterm labor, and I gave birth to a baby girl, Margaret Hope, and she passed away 8 hours after I had her. And that was, as you might imagine, extremely traumatic, very, very difficult. I went through a whole lot. I was very much depressed for a long time. And the following year, I wound up getting pregnant again. And I briefly thought about having an abortion because I thought maybe I wasn't ready to go through that step again. But we decided to keep it. And I went through a high-risk pregnancy, which is incredibly difficult. I'm very jealous of anyone who's ever been able to just have an easy pregnancy, because it has never been that way for me. So with my second pregnancy, I had a lot of care. I was fortunate to have that. And I think about people who have abortions because they know maybe they can't get that kind of care. But I was fortunate to have care. And when my son was born, though, he had persistent pulmonary hypertension. And so he was in the NICU for 2 months. And that was really difficult, as well, as you might imagine. I had a very second traumatic birth. And that followed me, of course, into the following year when I got pregnant a 3rd time. And this time, I had a 1-year-old son, and I knew that I just was not ready to have another baby so soon. I'm still not even sure if I ever want to try for another baby again, because my pregnancies have always been so difficult. So, you know, I immediately knew that I was going to have an abortion. I spoke with my husband, and he was on board. He was always very, very supportive of, you know, whether I wanted to have the baby or wanted to, you know, not. So I made an appointment. I decided to make an appointment with a clinic that was 2 counties away, because the closest clinic, I had actually been a clinic defender there a couple of times, and I saw how nasty people got as far as, you know, the protesters and like the signs, and I was just terrified that I would see that and that I would maybe even lose my nerve. So I made an appointment with this other clinic, and I reached out to the National Abortion Fund Network, and they helped me get some of the funds that I needed, because at the time I was on Medicaid and I was living in Florida. And with Medicaid, you cannot use your insurance to get an abortion. So I got the funds, and I am a very research-oriented person. I was an anthropology major in college and love research, so I approached this as I would anything else. I started looking up for stories about abortion to see what other people out there had to say, and funny enough, I found 1 in 3 this way, and I read through a lot of stories, I saw videos, and I knew that I was going to be okay. I also listened to, there's an abortion podcast called The Abortion Diaries by Madera, and that also helped me out. And I watched the movie Obvious Child, which I'm sure many people are familiar with. So all of that helped me out. And so I got to the clinic on a Saturday morning with my husband, and it was a really positive experience as far as abortion goes. there were two protesters, and they were very far away, and they were seated. They didn't have nasty signs or anything. So we went straight in, and they were playing this comedy. I forgot, some comedy movie in the waiting room. And at first I thought, like, oh, this is so inappropriate. Like, I'm so nervous. But then I realized it was kind of cutting the tension in the room, that everyone is so, like, scared. But everyone treated me really great. They had me do an ultrasound, but I requested not to look at it, and that was fine. And right before the procedure, I was very, very nervous. And the nurse grabbed my hand, and I had been telling her about my story. I'm like, look, I lost a baby before, and like I have all this PTSD that's still unresolved, and this is why I'm doing this. And she was like, look, you've been through so much. This is going to be fine for you. Like, you are going to be okay. Like, trust me, it's going to go by really quick. And I went in, and they gave me a sedative, and like, it felt like 2 seconds later, I was like, well, when is the procedure starting? And they were like, oh, it's over. Like, we're taking you to recovery. I'm like, oh my God, that was it? Like, that's all? And they put me in a room with some other girls, and we were all recovering together. And at first I felt kind of like, oh, this is kind of weird to be around all these other people, that just experienced this. But at the same time, I was like, you know what, this is good. Like, I feel that I'm not alone. Like, if I had been alone in a room, I would have been alone with my thoughts. But it felt good. And my husband picked me up. And I remember, it's funny that Mallory was saying that, she was happy to finally be able to eat after that. And we went to go get some pizza. And like, I just felt like all this pressure lift off my shoulders. So yeah, it was overall as positive experience as it could be.
Wow, that is such an amazing story of resilience and self-advocacy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I was wanting to ask you, though, why you are sharing your story today. Is there anything that drives you to share?
Yeah, a number of things. Well, one, as a mom, I feel like it's important to be outspoken about this. To my understanding, statistically, moms are the ones that have the most abortions out there. So I feel like as a mom, I need to speak out. As a queer Latina, I need to speak out because representation is important, visibility is important. As the daughter of immigrants, I think about the fact that, maybe I could have not been born in this country where we're so lucky to have, the right to get an abortion, whereas my family's from Nicaragua, and abortion there is completely illegal, and I believe even in cases of rape. So I really connect with the Jane Doe story that, somebody is here and trying to get the help that they need, and they can't. And I can just imagine, my life could have been so much different. I could have been a Jane Doe. I could have, been born somewhere else and come to this country to make a better life for myself, which is what pretty much the majority of immigrants are trying to do, despite what people may think. So yeah, I feel like I really need to put it out there. And on top of that, like, I just felt so alone. I had my husband as my support, but I could not tell my family. My family is pretty religious, and they would not have understood. My friends, I felt like I had this stigma over me about, being irresponsible, even though that's total, it's just bogus, but the stigma is just so heavy. So I felt embarrassed almost to tell them. I slowly started telling them after a while, but initially I didn't. And on top of that, as a lost mom, as somebody who's lost a baby, I was pretty active in the lost mom community. I had a lot of different groups, and it adds a layer of complexity when you have lost a baby, because you can't think of, if you're able to get pregnant again, would you give that chance up? And a lot of people wouldn't. And so it was hard to try to tell them. And when I finally did, I lost a few friends because they didn't understand that I would be able to do that. But, overall, I think it's just important to let people know, that all kinds of people have abortions.
So true. Well, thank you so much, Priscilla, for being here and doing this work. And I'm so honored to be around such powerful mothers.
Thank you.